been a while. I haven't done any movie reviewing ever since my Halloween special. Actually, you know what? Actually, I did some small ones, but I didn't get my chance to go to the movie theaters. And I will say that for the first time, for a long time, I did manage to skip a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Yep, I I don't know what brought me into it. Could it be that I wasn't feeling well? Could it be that I I was kind of not so sure? Or maybe it was the fact that I hated the first two Venom movies, and so why bother going for the third one? Yeah. So this is the reason why I didn't make Venom: The Last Dance review. I didn't go watch it. I think that it was for the best. It was for the best that I managed to skip those atrocious movies. But I know that on the long distant future, probably I'm gonna go with Craven the Hunter. And also we got election day, but this is not the time and place to talk about it. But suffice to say, I'm here right now. I went through a lot of life stuff. Like, for example, my iPhone fell down, it broke the camera, and I had to spend money to repair it. You can see I bought a webcam just because I want to try out some stuff. And also, I went to see The Heretic. The Heretic kind of sounds like a sitcom, I will say, but I was into the movie ever since I saw the trailer, in which it's one of those A24 movies that it looks a little bit pretentious, but at the same time interesting, eerie. The movie doesn't tell you too much. The trailer doesn't tell you too much about what you're gonna expect. You're just gonna go there, sit, and see what it is. And it looked interesting enough. We got Hugh Grant as the villain. I'm not exactly kind of like one of those big guys who know Hugh Grant. I know that he was mostly known for Paddington. I haven't seen any of the Paddington movies, just to be clear. He was in another one that I don't, I kind of don't remember much, but still, I know he can be kind of like a respected actor. So there, not much I have to say about The Heretic. I thought it was going to be one of those movies that is going to be kind of using religious point of view. So I watched it, and you know what? It was good. Although, I am gonna warn you that this movie is kind of a slow burn. If you're looking for something kind of like bloody or carnage, like the Terrifier movies, this is not that kind of movie. It is one of those that you have to go there at least in a perspective that you're probably gonna get something a little bit intellectual, to the point that you're gonna feel like you're gonna be on a class, and you'll be like, so what's the point of going to a movie? I just went to see a movie. I'm not going to be lectured. But not by the way, I'm not saying lecture like in the type of preaching that's, but more kind of like a lecture, like you're sitting there and then you're probably gonna see some teacher giving you some anthropology class. That's the kind of approach that it gave. So, but don't worry, it still has the elements to become a horror movie, in the sense of the thriller and some intellectual stuff, a little bit pretentious, but don't worry, it's not it's not as far as Megalopolis, uh, but you'll get a good time if you can endure all these things. I am sounding like I'm giving some bad rap to the movie, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm just saying that I saw some better movies, but The Heretic could be top tier if it wasn't for kind of like a little bit of a slow burn, but still interesting. It is interesting, I'll say. So where do I go with this? So let's go on with it. So the movie, it starts out two women who are religious Mormon missionaries, and they're played by Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. Their sister, they just go well, not sister. They belong to a religious group. They go around, making the missionaries that they go and try to make people be aware of, hey, do you believe in the name of God and all this stuff and all that stuff. They're devoted to the whole thing and with their missionary thing. And of course, they're not taken seriously, even to the point that some youngster even say, "Hey, do you have magic panties?" Zoop! They strip her pants down. All right, they strip her pants down. So they're having this typical moment. They're even questioning a little bit their faith. That is until they go to one of their houses that they're told to say, "Hey, let's go to this house and say to bring the word of God and all this stuff." And of course, the house belongs to none other than Hugh Grant, who plays this guy named Mr. Reed, who he's kind of odd. He kind of really acts suspicious, although he invites them in his house, which is almost a little bit in the middle of nowhere. They had to do it because, well, it's it's raining. Come on in. My wife is making blueberry pie. So they get in and they have kind of like this weird, eerie conversation. And, well, mostly the movie is that, yes, there's something wrong with this guy. This guy, he's just there to, well, it doesn't necessarily say what was his modus operandi, but mostly let's say that he lives in a house. The house is really elaborate, and he's basically is trying to test their faith on them, their faith on God, their faith on religions, and all this stuff. And, well, it kind of turns into this horror movie. If you put it together, it sounds like one of those torture movies, but it's more kind of like an intellectual torture more than I'm gonna cut your feet or your fingers or something like that. There's a little of that, but that's kind of like not the biggest selling point of the movie. Let's go on a little bit with the actors and a bit of the character, because if there's one movie why it's worth it, why this movie is worth it, I mean, is Hugh Grant himself. Hugh Grant, he was magnificent because, in a way, he was kind of like a Scullery type of villain. He begins to talk about the religion, how it was made, some of the things how it evolved during the years. You know that the guy is really knowledgeable of this subject, and although in a way I kind of eerily kind of root for him, because I'm not exactly a religious person, but most of the things that he said, it makes sense. It makes sense. Although there are some things that it kind of makes it twisty, but he has kind of like the charming personality of a teacher. In which it's someone like when you go to the university, Hugh Grant, and then he becomes the teacher, and he begins to even he begins to compare religion to Burger King, or religion to Monopoly. His talk is kind of like entertaining, and when he gets creepy, it is creepy, but you know what? Not in the way that you might think of. It's more kind of like the interesting creepy. because yeah, there is something wrong with the guy. Oh my god, it's because I'm struggling to not reveal too much. But then, of course, we got the two girls, the missionary girls. She, each one has kind of like their own personality that, in their time, they show what they are. They're not stupid, but they're kind of clearly a little bit naive, and the more you watch the movie, you kind of feel like there's some hidden depths with them. Like, for example, one of them is a little bit more devout. She grew up in a religious family. She just got used to it, and well, she's a little bit of a doormat, but she knows what she's doing also. And also, you got the other one who she's into it. How can I say? There's a little bit of a backstory within her. She's a little bit more uptight with her personality, but and as the movie progresses, you can see that it basically is just testing their faith, testing what they're doing. If they believe in God, especially with the questions and the teachings that Hugh Grant just give. And each one will have kind of like their own comeuppance, their way to react. But one thing they share, of course, is that is the notion of, oh my God, this guy is, I don't want to stay here. And yeah, they have the right decision that when the time comes, they're like, no, I don't want to stay. And of course, they can't escape. They can't escape. It's just. And they're likable enough, I'll say. And none of them are kind of like irritating or like most horror movies kind of do. That's pretty much I have to say about that. Although there are a few kind of like other side characters. Actually, no. There are other there's other side character that I not revealed too much. The only side character that it was kind of a little bit pointless because he was kind of like a means to advance a certain point of the story, is basically the father, who is kind of like their boss, in which he kind of begins to see scenes of him, cleaning the church, and then he's like, where are these girls? And he just go look for them. Okay, continuing on, let me talk about the cinematography that is really brilliant. It plays with the dark shadows, the cameras. It looks really well done, in which it benefits the whole scenario, which I'll get to that, by the way. And it works well. You know what? I'll go with the scenery, because one of the things that this movie also does well is kind of like the scenery that that like I said, he lives kind of like in a house like almost in the middle of nowhere, but it looks like a kind of like a small house, a typical small house that you can find a little bit on a cul-de-sac on a city made of wood and all that stuff. But then when you get in, it has some interesting gadgetry. Somehow it really looks old school. You can see the artistic scene that it goes. And if you've seen the trailer, once you go deeper on the house, let's say that the more you go inside, it more looks like a scullery dungeon. It almost feels like one of those dungeons from Octopath Traveler, where you go to a mansion and then it looks like a house, but the more you go deeper, then it turns into a dungeon. It is incredible. It's almost like how the hell all these things can fit on a house. But still, it's kind of like interesting. Even, you know what? The learning studio, it looks really good. This is kind of like a place where I would like to have, a study session, especially with Hugh Grant, because again, he really delivers like a great teacher, except with the deranged part, of course, and of course. I just hope that he gives a blueberry pie. Okay, so now this is me where I talk a little bit about the themes and also which also comes with the pacing of the movie, which this is where the movie goes a little bit kind of like hit or miss. Like I said, the movie is a slow burn, especially because this movie takes kind of like a long while for things to kick in. I mean, we get kind of like the introduction. We start with the girls having doing their job, spreading the word of God, and of course not taken seriously. But then they go to the house of Hugh Grant, and then they enter the house, and I think we stayed like 15 minutes, I think, hearing them kind of like having these intellectual conversations about the belief of God, how if you believe, and where this religious thing come from, but of course the whole theme of the whole movie, in which they say is that it's basically trying to find the one true religion. So they begin to talk about it, and they kind of compare religion with fast food. Like for example, also I gotta give it a thumbs up that they say, hey, Burger King is the best. Yes, Burger King is the best. Also, they did kind of say that they don't like Taco Bell. But that's not too important. And then after those 15 minutes, this is when they finally realize that this is not a place to go, and they try to get out. But unfortunately, Hugh Grant made this whole thing like an inescapable situation. So he technically takes them, half those girls hostage. Then they go to the studio, and then we get another lecture in which the guy is like, oh sure, you can go, but you can't go in the front door because the front door has a mechanism that it can't open, kind of like really old school and kind of convenient. And he said you must escape from the back door, but you have to choose which door you're gonna go in. And then he gives again, like I said, the lecture that he talks about this interesting talk about how religions cannibalize each other depending on the cultures, where it come from, how similar they are. Then he begins to compare the what was it, the Quran, the Mormon Bible, the Bible of Mormon, what was it, the Bible and the Israel. It kind of escaped me. But either way, he compares them to Monopoly, and I never knew that there was kind of like a very early version of Monopoly that isn't called Monopoly. The name escapes me, but he gives kind of like this interesting take. And honestly, me being a little bit having a little bit of a scholar spirit, I bought into it. Although sometimes you feel like it kind of drags on, and you kind of feel like, I am here to watch a movie. I am not exactly here to be school and to be in class. So you have to be on that right mind in order to enjoy the movie, because then the movie gets crazier. It gets crazier in a sense that the second half, it also becomes hit or miss, but in a different way. Because things get really, really ludicrous and really kind of like crazy. And and again, this is where I want to stop and say, no, just watch the movie if you want to, but I will say this. If there's a moment in which the movie kind of shoots itself in the foot, it's the ending. The last 5 minutes. You have something, it becomes a little bit too crazy, and you get some interesting answers. But then events kind of happen out of nowhere, and then one miracle moment, that where I call foul, because that moment became very Deus Ex Machina. That was a Deus Ex Machina that, even for a movie that kind of was expecting, it wasn't executed well. So honestly, I just wish that, I'm wondering if this movie has multiple endings, if there are other endings to talk about it. But that ending, it didn't. That didn't do well. So that makes the movie, that just because of that moment and then the final moments of the movie, it left me confused. But overall, I will say that it was pretty decent. You could have some insights about about people, religion, how it's treated, the questions about faith. It gives some interesting insight, and it doesn't technically preach you, but it gives you more kind of like a food for thought about it, without kind of like hammering your head, and at least it gives you kind of like a thrilling movie to go along with it, especially with Hugh Grant acting really sophisticated, and to the point that, yep, this is where the movie ends. So I'll say that you can check this movie out of a rental, or if you wanted a matinee, if you want to see something like that. And so there you have it. But once you see this movie, you will then realize what is the true, or the one true religion, and that is blueberry pie.